Feels like it's been forever. How you guys been? I am back in business today in an all-new space. It's still really rough in here audio-wise, so we're going to be mic'd up a little different for the next few videos. You will be getting a tour of this space as soon as it's ready to go. It's almost starting to feel like tradition now, that every time I get a new space, I get a new build. And thanks to my friends over at Gigabyte who are graciously sponsoring today's video, we've got exactly that. My initial choice for the case for this build was the Torrent Compact from Fractal Design. They did send one of those cases out, and I got about 95% finished with the build before I realized that the absolutely massive 3070 gaming OC from Gigabyte was literally like 1, maybe 2 millimeters too big to go in that case. So I found myself at Micro Center in Cambridge today at the opening bell to grab a full-size Torrent. Side note, they had GPUs on the shelf out there. Lots of them, too. Nature is healing. So the Torrent has these two absolutely massive 180 millimeter RGB fans in the front of the case. They look absolutely insane. I really wanted to use them, but we're going to be using the WaterForce X 360 AIO from Gigabyte, so these had to go. Sadly, they don't fit in the bottom of the case either without obscuring some really important cable routing at the bottom of the motherboard. Power supply today is the Gigabyte UD Gold 750 watt. It's an 80 plus gold. It's fully modular. All the cables are flat and black, so it should look pretty clean. It's top mounted in this case. That leaves the floor clear for intake, and you got plenty of height down here to draw air from the bottom as long as you're not choking it out with carpet. Main drive for this build is the Aorus Gen 4 7000S SSD. This is a PCIe 4.0 NVMe M.2 and 1 terabyte. This breaks my heart too because Aorus heatsinks always look sick. This one's definitely no exception, but ultimately it's going to live in the motherboard, which has its own killer looking heatsinks with really generous thermal guards on the front and the back. This motherboard has 4 total slots for these. And the main board we're using today is the Z690 Aorus Elite AX DDR4. Wait, why DDR4? DDR5 obviously has some potential and it looks good on paper, but it's still pretty early in the game, so pricing, availability, and latency timings aren't the best. If you don't absolutely have to have the newest gear out, there's still a strong case to be made for DDR4 right now. And I could use 4 sticks with no issues. This board is a beast. That's not surprising at all, as I always use Gigabyte boards for my personal builds and have for a couple decades now, long before they ever started sending me gear or sponsoring videos. It's built solid and it's feature packed enough to where I was really surprised by its current price of $239.99, making it one of the cheapest main boards I own. It's got integrated backplate, which I like because I'm the guy that will always forget to put this thing in until my build is finished. It's got loads of USB 2 and USB 3.2 ports. Also have onboard Wi-Fi 6 and 2.5 gigabit Ethernet LAN with bandwidth management. Main heatsink here is really beefy with high coverage MOSFET heatsinks. It just looks sick. It's a great looking board. As for the DDR4, we're going to feed it 4 sticks of 8 for a total of 32. This is at 4400 at 19, 26, 26, 46. These have some serious heat sinks and RGB as well. Again, it looks gorgeous, really heavy in the hand. That Aorus aesthetic always hits for me. Chip today is the Intel i7 12700KF, so it doesn't have the onboard graphics, but it is unlocked. Intel has had some buzz around this 12th gen, so I'm pretty excited to see the single core performance. It's been a while since I've been on Intel. This is a 12 core processor with 8 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores, and a max turbo of 5 gigahertz. And shockingly, they sent me a GPU. I guess that means I've finally officially made it as a tech YouTuber. I'm not gonna flex on you guys with a 3080 or a 3090. I'm not an entitled monster. They sent the RTX 3070 Ti Gaming OC8, and this card is massive. Like I mentioned before, make sure you're taking solid, accurate measurements before you get started if you're planning on putting this in a case where space might be an issue. Big triple Windforce fan setup. I think triple slot too. This is a thick boy right here. It's pretty light, so not too much GPU sag, and the Torrent actually includes a little bracket to take care of that if it is an issue. I haven't used the 3070 Ti yet, so I'm pretty curious to see what this card can do. So I'm really impressed with the 12700KF. I haven't had an Intel machine in my personal build since the 8700K, so like 4.5 years ago. Memory ran flawless too, just loaded up the XMP profile and it ran at 4400, no sweat. I really like the newest revisions to the WaterForce X cooler as well. The saturation on the RGB fans is really deep, especially next to the Fractal Design fans. Not only does the screen look amazing, but you can load your own stuff on there. There's even a mini SD card slot on there if you want to hold more animations. The best part for me is that you can now rotate the display a full 360 degrees so you can get that graphic lined up just right. It handled the CPU great running stock. I don't think I ever saw this thing get above 70 degrees. And what I didn't do is throw a big overclock at the CPU, because to overclock Alder Lake properly looks wildly more complicated than it did back on my old 8th gen chip. You can go in and get a really light overclock with Gigabyte's EasyTune software to like 5.1, but this is something I'll need to spend some more time with. The 3070 Ti seems really capable as an upper mid-tier card. This Gigabyte version comes out of the box with a clock of 1830, which is already pretty decent. I was able to throw a really easy OC on it to 1985 stable without throwing additional voltage at it, and it made a decent little difference in my time spy scores. All in all, I'm pretty stoked with how this build came out. That little SSD is super fast too. It's not going to dethrone my big Threadripper editing machine for production work, but the setup will be at the heart of my new personal gaming rig, replacing my aging Ryzen 3900X setup. Big thanks again to Gigabyte for sending this out today. I have a ton of exciting stuff to show you guys in the next couple weeks, including some very big announcements. The very next video out will be the QK65 keyboard, which I know a lot of you have been waiting on. Then we'll do some fun collab stuff, and finally some audio, so stay tuned for that. That's it for today. I am so excited to be back, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.